Today is going to be a very horrifying case that will make you jump. A baffling mystery has been simmering beneath the surface. Over the span of 3 years, 6 unexplained deaths have shattered the peace, each case bearing an uncanny similarity. These victims, ranging from infants to young adults, were found lifeless in circumstances that initially suggested sudden infant death syndrome, SIEDS. However, as the number of fatalities grew, so did the complexities of the case, casting a shadow of doubt over the SIDS theor. July 12, 2002, Las Vegas, Nevada. In a twist of fate that seems almost cinematic, Deborah Fornuto, a 47-year-old woman previously embroiled in a series of chilling child death cases, met her end in a tragic car accident this week in Las Vegas. Formerly known as Deborah Ann Boo Narbonne Gedzius, Fornuto's life was marked by a dark and mysterious history. Between 1972 and 1987, she witnessed the deaths of her 6 infants, each not surviving past 2 years. Initially, these deaths were attributed to sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, a diagnosis that later came under intense scrutiny. The enigmatic pattern of these fatalities remained unconnected for years, owing to Fornuto's frequent relocations and name changes following multiple marriages. The turning point came when Harry Gedzius, her former brother-in-law, raised suspicions to the medical examiner after the 4th child's death in 1980. Despite subsequent investigations, the cause of death remained inconclusive, shrouded in uncertainty and suspicion. The case took a grim turn with the death of a 5th child in 1984, found lifeless by Fornuto after a nap. Even a fetal monitor, installed to alert breathing issues, failed to prevent the demise of a 6th child 3 years later. In 1990, a significant development occurred when Dr. Robert Stein, Cook County's medical examiner, revisited the cases and concluded that all 6 deaths were homicides caused by suffocation. However, a grand jury investigation led to no charges against Fornuto, citing insufficient evidence. Adding to the mystery, in April 1989, Delos Gedzius, Fornuto's ex-husband, was found dead under suspicious circumstances, further entangling her in a web of intrigue. Despite investigations, no charges were filed against her. Fornuto's life took another turn when she married James Fornuto, a former Chicago policeman. The couple eventually relocated to Nevada, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and unresolved grief. Her untimely demise in Las Vegas, resulting from a reckless driving incident involving Thomas Mannix, brings an abrupt end to a life mired in mystery and tragedy. The accident, resulting in a 4-car crash and Mannix's arrest on multiple felony charges, marks the final chapter in a saga that has haunted the Chicago area for decades. July 21, 2002. For over 2 decades, Harry Gedzius has been driven by a relentless quest for truth. His mission, to unravel the mystery behind the murder of his brother Delos and the enigmatic deaths of 6 infants. His target of suspicion has always been one person, Deborah Fornuto, once known as Deborah Gedzius in Chicago. Despite Fornuto's recent fatal car crash in Las Vegas on July 11th, Gedzius's determination remains unshaken. This tragedy, for some, signals a potential dead end in solving Delos's murder and the baffling infant deaths, once attributed to sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. This diagnosis, now shrouded in controversy due to the emerging skepticism about multiple SIDS occurrences, has only fueled Gedzius's resolve. From his home in Bridgeview, the 54-year-old continues his solitary investigation. Despite a dissolved marriage, declining health, and reliance on a modest disability income, Gedzius is driven by a steadfast belief that a breakthrough clue or a silent witness is still out there, waiting to be uncovered. This obsession, it's relentless. I've tried to distract myself, but it always circles back, he admits. I'm clinging to hope that with Deborah's passing, someone will finally step forward with the truth. Gedzius's path crossed with Fornuto in the mid-1970s, when his younger brother, Delos, a recent Marine Corps veteran, started dating her. At that time, Fornuto, pregnant and separated from her second husband, had already lost 2 children under mysterious circumstances. Rumors swirled in their southwest side neighborhood that she was behind these deaths. Darius recalls a chilling confession from Delos, suspecting Fornuto of being a murderer. This suspicion led Harry to alert the medical examiner after the death of Fornuto's 4th child in 1980, marking the first time authorities sensed something amiss. Yet, the medical examiner consistently ruled the children's deaths as SIDS, a diagnosis that grew increasingly contentious. Harry's actions and suspicions created a rift within his family. "My mother and sister would plead with me to stop, accusing me of stirring up family troubles," he shared. The mystery deepened with Delos Gedsius's untimely death in April 1989, found with a gunshot wound in his Marionette Park apartment. This tragedy reignited the investigation into Fornuto's tangled past. Despite lengthy interrogations and a grand jury examination, Fornuto maintained her innocence, as recounted by her former attorney, Rick Halprin. Harry Gedsius's quest for answers continues, a solitary journey against the backdrop of unresolved tragedies and enduring questions. In the absence of substantial leads, official investigations reached a deadlock. Undeterred, Harry Gedsius resolved to personally unravel the mystery. Residing opposite Fornuto's southwest sidebar, Gedsius distributed flyers in the vicinity, offering a $1,000 reward for information leading to his brother's assailant. His efforts were met with resistance. The posters were repeatedly torn down. Additionally, his car's windshield was shattered 3 times. Gedsius observed that Fornuto instilled fear in many locals. Nonetheless, fueled by his conviction of her guilt, he persistently monitored her tavern, both day and night, with an unwavering gaze. He meticulously noted the license plate numbers of patrons and even once spray-painted "Killer" on the establishment's facade. Driven by a relentless pursuit of justice, Gedsius admitted, "I aimed to provoke her, hoping she'd slip up or confront me. I was consumed by the injustice of her evading punishment, while I faced empty assurances from the authorities." He also devoted countless hours to researching sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, in libraries, incessantly questioning the medical examiner's office in an effort to demonstrate the improbability of 6 deaths being natural. His suspicions eventually gained traction. In 1997, new research challenging the belief that SIDS could be familial led medical examiners to reevaluate the cases, subsequently classifying all deaths as undetermined. A subsequent grand jury scrutinized Fornuto. However, the absence of concrete evidence necessitated either an eyewitness or a confession for a charge, according to Cook County Medical Examiner Edmund Donahue. Ultimately, without either, Fornuto remained uncharged. Post-grand jury, Gedsius's obsession diminished. His personal life demanded attention, with his own family and a struggling marriage, partly strained by his case fixation. Last year, health issues forced his retirement from his heating and air conditioning technician job. Meanwhile, Fornuto had remarried, relocated westward, and began a new life working in a Nevada casino, as her former attorney reported. She continued to attract tabloid and law enforcement attention, her history uncovered during a background check. Recently, she was arrested on a marijuana charge alongside Thomas Mannix, a younger associate. In a tragic turn of events, Mannix, reportedly intoxicated, was driving Fornuto's Buick Roadmaster when it ran a red light in Las Vegas, resulting in a fatal collision. Fornuto perished in the accident, and Mannix now faces multiple felony charges. Some speculate that Fornuto's untimely death buried any undisclosed truths about her children's demise. Donahue remarked that without a confession, the case remains at a standstill. "I foresee the state's attorney closing this case as well, given the primary suspect's demise," he speculated. "There don't appear to be any other suspects." May 20th, 1997. The enigmatic boundary between unsolved medical riddles and sinister deeds is razor-thin, as the harrowing tale of the Gedsius family's tragedy demonstrates. Between 1972 and 1987, Debbie Gedsius suffered the unimaginable loss of her 6 infants, a series of calamities that brewed a storm of suspicion alongside grief. The lingering question was inescapable. How could one family face such recurring tragedy? In 1989, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office embarked on a quest for answers, hindered partly by the assertions of a prominent sudden infant death syndrome (SIDS) expert, Dr. Bruce Beckwith of Loma Linda University. He initially proposed a respiratory disorder as the culprit, a theory later debunked and discredited. A pivotal shift occurred when Beckwith, the very individual who pioneered the SIDS definition in the 1960s, revised his stance in a startling revelation during a phone interview, labeling the deaths as infanticide. The state's attorney's office, re-energized by this turnaround, issued subpoenas to several Gedsius relatives, as revealed by Rick Halprin, the family's attorney. Meanwhile, Debbie Gedsius, who resided in the Mount Greenwood area during the tragic events, has since relocated to the Southwest. Her current stance remains a denial of any involvement in her children's deaths. This bewildering turn of events underscores the complexities surrounding SIDS, a condition that, despite scientific advances cutting its occurrence by half, continues to perplex researchers. The syndrome, often linked to unsafe sleeping environments, remains an enigma, particularly concerning why some infants fail to respond to life-threatening conditions that would typically awaken them. Dr. James Filiano of Dartmouth Medical School encapsulates this uncertainty. In SIDS research, we are navigating a sea of hypotheses. Nothing is definitive. Researchers have established that SIDS risks diminish with certain precautions, like placing babies on their backs to sleep and avoiding soft bedding. Yet, SIDS persists, even under these safer conditions, and especially in siblings of previous SIDS victims, raising further questions about its true nature. These complexities contribute to the difficulty in differentiating between natural infant mortality and deliberate harm. Physical signs often do not conclusively indicate whether a death resulted from intentional suffocation or a SIDS-related condition. As a result, in the absence of other evidence, a SIDS verdict is often the default, though it remains shrouded in uncertainty. The Gedsius case, therefore, stands as a poignant representation of this dilemma, where the inherent vulnerability of infants blurs the lines between natural and nefarious causes of death, leaving more questions than answers in its wake. May 8, 1990. In the quiet community of Marionette Park, the blare of a television and radio from Delos Gedsius's apartment had been a constant for 3 days, much to the annoyance of his neighbors. The uncharacteristic stillness of his car in the parking lot only added to their concerns. On a fateful night just over a year ago, Robert Will, the maintenance man, unlocked Gedsius's door with a sense of foreboding. His worst fears were confirmed by the unmistakable odor that greeted him. "I smelled it, and I knew. I called the police," he recounted. "I told them, I think there's a dead body here." Inside, Gedsius lay motionless on his couch, a chilling scene mimicking peaceful slumber. However, a grim discovery awaited the Marionette Park police: a single bullet wound in his left temple. This was the tragic end of the 33-year-old pipefitter on April 25, 1989. But Delos Gedsius's death unraveled more than just a murder. It cast a shadow on a series of inexplicable deaths, all intertwining with his life and that of his estranged wife, Deborah. His murder prompted a deeper investigation into the deaths of Deborah's 6 children between 1972 and 1987, initially attributed to sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. This mysterious condition claims about 7,000 lives annually in the U.S. Yet to this day, no charges have been filed relating to Delos Gedsius's murder or the tragic demise of the children. Denise Boo, 5 months, Jennifer Narbone, 4 months, Barbara Jean Narbone, 6 months, Jason Gedzius, 1 year, Delos Gedzius Jr., 2 years, and Daniel Gedzius, 2 months. Dr. Robert Stein, the county medical examiner, has turned over all records concerning these deaths to the state attorney's office. Investigators, familiar with the Gedzius case, are probing into Deborah's links with a Chicago police officer. This angle emerged from her meeting with the officer soon after dining with her husband at a Crestwood restaurant, 4 days before Delos was found dead. According to Marionette Park Police Chief Robert Stevens, there were no signs of forced entry or struggle in Gedzius's apartment at 3052 West 119th Street. The murder weapon is believed to be either a .38 caliber or a .357 Magnum handgun. While the police have identified several suspects, the timeline for an arrest remains uncertain. WMAQ-TV reported that the separated Gedziuses had met to discuss property division shortly before Delos's death. Deborah reportedly claimed a $100,000 life insurance policy following her husband's demise. Will, the maintenance man, noted that despite their separation, the couple maintained a social relationship. 3 of the deceased children were fathered by Delos Gedzius, Deborah's third husband. In each tragic case, Deborah reported finding her children lifeless, with revival efforts by medical teams proving futile. Although initial autopsies were inconclusive, with the first 4 deaths classified as SIDS, the causes of the last 2 deaths in 1984 and 1987 remain undetermined. It has been nearly 50 years since the case occurred, and the police have still not been able to conclude whether the case is a pathological issue or an organized murder. Additionally, the passing of the main suspect has further led to a deadlock in the case. What do you think about this? Don't forget to leave your opinion in the comment section below.